All right. We are at almost over 30 hours now of studying material related to this case here on this channel. And I think it's good that we study the material, books and lyrics and everything else, interviews. That's what we should be doing if we want to do a proper investigation and not just be all about donations and looking good. Let's actually get things done. So that's what we're doing. And I'm going to wait for people to show up, but I want to talk about how Lisa from Who Killed Kurt is telling people that Joe didn't even know that there was a book coming out about him and everything. And Joe was playing dumb at the time. He didn't want to tell Lisa or Michelle or anything and everything about who he was working with and what he was doing. So maybe she does have a snapshot of him saying that, but he was literally playing dumb to her and her crew, knowing that she would send it to everybody. When you're doing an investigation, you got to think a little deeper. Don't be like the Seattle Police Department or anybody else on YouTube just dismissing things right away. Anyway, Joe did write the book. Well, he had a ghostwriter with writing the book, help writing the book. Oh, good. I missed the call from Harvey. Hopefully we can get him on tonight. I just want to quickly go over something that Joe said that he allowed me to record. Just a second. I have many of them regarding the book too, but here's this. Just a sec.
The basics of it.
Yeah, but you didn't say he was hit over the head by Mark Lanigan or something, right? I mean, he was only smacked in the face with like something like a heroin kit, right?
There was a scuffle, you know? I was on the other side of the room, man.
Okay. Did you hear yelling?
Well, yeah, there was an argument.
Okay.
It's all in the book. Didn't you read the book?
Yeah. The argument was like you didn't know, but you
People want it to be more than there is.
Did you?
Super fans. I'm not even a Nirvana fan, dude.
I know. We just got to clear up what Chris said. Chris said in the book that Kurt was hit in the head with something that seriously dazed him.
He was hit with something. Yeah, they had a scuffle. That's what I put in the book.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the fuck it was.
I guess he kind of made it look like you seen the injection happen, but he didn't say that, but I guess it reads like that really fast. But you didn't see that, right?
Everything I saw is in the book. We spent massive hours fucking over the telephone on the book. It's all in there. People want there to be more, and it's annoying. It's just like, I'm telling it to fucking people what fucking happened.
Right, you're right on the other side saying, what the fuck?
It's just getting old. I'm just gonna fucking never talk about it again if I get hassled too much on this shit. I'm just sick of it.
I know. So, Lisa telling everybody that Joe doesn't stand by the book and didn't know it was even happening and that it's not true is false. You just heard Joe confirm the news about his book. So, if she wants to send people snapshots of when he was playing dumb to them because he didn't want them to know everything he was doing to try to discredit Mark Lanigan being there, that's not going to hold up. You're going to have to try harder to cover up for Courtney Love. Whether you're doing that purposely or not on purpose. you're going to have to try harder to cover it up. Because I'm doing a good job at putting out Mark Lanigan's name and helping Joe and Kurt. And so are you that actually follow this and know that I am onto something. I mean, it comes from Joe. He was there before YouTube even existed, obviously. Here's some more of that. Here we go.
Old Spice Fiji deodorant.
So, Joe, right here.
Your book. Do you agree with everything that's written in there?
Well, yeah, I wrote the book.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I wouldn't have had it published, man, if I didn't agree with it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous, all this shit. I mean, everyone, I don't know if the cops were paid off or what's going on, but I mean, they didn't, I'm not going to go too much into the book at all. I'm just going to say that they never checked for fingerprints. They said years later that the gun was wiped off. I mean, they didn't do their job, basically. They just went in there, and it seemed like that they were getting paid or something to just say it's a suicide and leave it alone, because they didn't look into it at all. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, buy the book.
There you have it again. Joe acknowledging the book and everything in it, which is obviously as well referring to Mark Lanigan's involvement, as well as the attack in the basement that happened from Joe himself. And that's the first time anyone has gotten that on audio. So if she wants to share a screenshot around when Joe was playing dumb to them about who he was working with to try to discredit Mark Lanigan being there and what actually happened to Kurt Cobain, I say good luck. Because there's so much more that goes against you trying to disprove it. And I'm going to go over, I think, let me see. I guess I'm just going to chat for now, but Alan, no. L was supposed to, get the person to do the job and do it himself too, actually. But he couldn't be reached. He was on tour at the time. Mark Lanigan lived only 15 minutes away, a drive. And he was the last resort in this case. Because he referred him to Courtney. It wouldn't have been the time when Kurt was in Seattle again and she was trying to get a hold of him and couldn't because she couldn't tell him anything. So he couldn't say, oh, my friend Alan. That would have been at the rock shop. So that was all covered up really quickly, and Tom Grant had a great involvement in doing that too. And he wants everyone to laugh it off, just like with everything about Danny and Joe and Mark Lanigan and Dylan. Like, what the hell? Why are you? If it's not the killers, if it's not everyone around that we know to be the killers and the people involved, Tom Grant, then who the fuck is it? Is it Justin Bieber? If it's not the people involved, who is it? Maybe it's Houdini. Or maybe it's Charlie Kirk. If it's not the people involved that we know are involved, that we're being told are involved and are in all the books about being there, then who the fuck is it, Tom? I'll tell you, it's the people that were there. It's the people that were in Kurt's circle that were drug addicts. Tom Grant knows that, and as a private investigator and ex-police officer, how could you not understand that? He does. He did not miss the greenhouse, and he was there on Thursday, April 7th. And that comes from his own Cobain case manual study, and we've looked at it in such an innocent way for too long. But when you really look at it and everything else that's come out about that time and that date, he was there with all the killers that he's defending and trying to make you laugh about having any involvement in Kurt's murder. Why the hell would you do that? If you are a private investigator or a police officer, you're an ex-police officer, probably for a reason, because either you're really, 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 really dumb, or you're really smart and you're fooling a bunch of people. And the people closest to Kurt Cobain, like Chris Novoselic, hate your fucking guts. And Rosemary Carroll. Hence why she stopped speaking to Tom Grant when she realized there's more to this guy than she was realizing in the beginning. I guess it just took us many, many, many more years to see what Rosemary Carroll seen. And to know and understand what Chris means when he says, I fucking hate that guy. It's not about him putting out that Kurt was murdered and Chris not agreeing with it and hating him for that. There's a deeper reason here. I've linked him back to April 7th. He has himself. And Dylan ratted on Tom and Courtney by getting high with Maureen Herman from Babes in Toyland and admitting that Courtney and him found the body a day before the police did, and he found the gun. He liked to brag about that when talking to people about Kurt. And if that's true, which I believe it is, because he was there in Tom's case manual study, that means that was Thursday, April 7th. Unless Tom Grant missed Courtney Love that day at the house and night, and he missed the greenhouse. But I doubt he missed those things. I guarantee you, he's saying he missed the greenhouse to hide more, to hide a lot more than just the greenhouse. He's saying that so he hides his involvement with Courtney being there, if that's ever brought up, because Courtney was also with Dylan that night. Who was Tom with? In his case manual study, he's put it there himself. He was with Dylan. So he's not there on the night of the murder doing anything weird. He's there on Thursday, April 7th. Not Sunday, April 3rd. Thursday, April 7th. That's how all this stuff makes sense. They weren't there on the night of the murder. Of course, Mark and Dylan were, and Callie. But Courtney and Tom flew down like Wednesday night, and they ended up in Seattle on Thursday, April 7th. And Tom's into computer hacking and everything. Hank Harrison admitted that. And when I was on the phone with Tom, he's like, can you help me do this? I don't understand how to do this. I'm kind of thinking that was his manipulation. He's totally full of manipulation. You literally have the person on Unsolved Mysteries that's part of staging the crime scene in the greenhouse, trying to act like they don't know who the killers are and people that did any of it. That's crazy. That's an inside job. That's called an inside job for sure. If you can go on Unsolved Mysteries and be part of it and still be that brave, wow. What a piece of crap. I hope in your older years you feel like crap, but if you do, and you believe in forgiveness, come clean, Tom, and release everything on Courtney. You're getting old now anyway, just like Danny was. So, and I know she would threaten family as well. I'd say make it public, if you're hearing this, Tom, write something. And maybe even film yourself writing it. And then make everyone see it. And so that anything, if they were to try anything, Courtney and her crew of people, I know you're part of that, but there's other people that are part of it that will hurt others that are part of it if they turn against it. I know her control, but at least document everything in a really public way that will make it so obvious that it was her if anything bad happened to you. Or, I mean, anything in your life. I really want to help this situation out, and I know Tom has regret, and I know Mark Lanigan did. Dylan, I'm not too sure about. Courtney, I'm sure about. She doesn't. Even if she does, she just still remains rotten and awful. That's just her own personality, regardless of Kurt Cobain. People that are rotten and awful are just that way towards anybody. Doesn't matter if you're on their side or against them. They shouldn't even be that way. You should have been around those people, Tom, from the beginning. Yeah, he got to know him pretty well when he got back to Seattle, when he went up to Seattle. I mean, yeah. But you have like crazies like Sam Lufty or whatever, one of Britney Spears' abusers that works for Courtney and hurt Isaiah Silva. Actually barged into his place, kicked his door down, grabbed him by the groin and squeezed and held his neck and robbed him and kidnapped him. And I have the person, amazingly, I'm talking with the guy, the Canadian that actually stopped that kidnapping. He stopped Sam from kidnapping Isaiah. Sam Luffy is a crazy, like you can tell he's a narcissistic crackhead just by looking at him. He's one of Britney Spears' abusers, and he works with Courtney Love to hurt people as well. You got to be more savage than them, Tom. And you can do that for Jesus Christ, and you should. Read the Gospel of Thomas, the banned Bible, book from the Bible. Look up the Gospel of Thomas, the banned gospel. Look up that, Tom, if you watch this and hear this. All right, I'm going to read what you sent me. Just a sec. Gary was there Thursday as well? What the hell? Where does it say that? Oh, wow, I really have to go through this. This is a long thing, though, kind of. Can you copy and paste it in the comment section about Mark? Oh, right here. So on Thursday, April 7th. Well, that would be me because that's what we did with Mark Lanigan. Let me ask the question. Say the question. On page 172 of Lanigan's book, he says, the next day, someone in the Nirvana camp asked if I would go with Dylan to some Capitol dope houses to see if Kurt was hanging out at any of them. Who is this individual from the Nirvana camp he is referring to? Tom Grant. Well, that would be me, because that's what we did with Mark Lanigan. You see, that's where you can tell again he's gotten things confused in his mind over the years, or he's just making stuff up, which when you say the part someone from the Nirvana camp, that tells me he doesn't remember who I was other than I was working for Courtney, because that can only be a reference to me, because I'm the one who took him and Dylan to the drug dealer's house to buy some heroin to see if Kurt was there. I actually even gave them the money to buy the heroin, ... Looking suspicious but misleading, Tom. You guys knew Kurt was dead on April 7th. You probably didn't even do that because of Kurt. You probably just got some for yourself. At least for Mark and Dylan. So, now what? Tom has my address, my apartment number, and I'm accusing him of staging the crime scene in the greenhouse of Courtney and Dylan and Mark. And I know he was. Eric Erlandson possibly too. And so hopefully people here can stand up for me and Joe and Kurt and Harvey by saying that, Lisa telling whoever she's telling that Joe has no clue about the book and that he has no part in it and anything, and Mark Lanigan's involvement is false. Let those people know they're being lied to by Lisa, not by me, not by Joe, not even by Chris Todd, the ghostwriter. They're being lied to by Lisa for some reason. Maybe they just want the attention of everything that was said. I know they love the video about Joe on their channel, or maybe there's a darker reason. Maybe they're connected with someone that's really bad. But I don't want to think that. Or maybe she's just really not in the loop of what Joe has recently said. Hey, I don't know why. It's not fair to put out misinformation about this case just because you wanted to break the news, and so you don't want people to believe it. That's so stupid. That becomes not about Kurt Cobain, it becomes about those people. They think Mark's like an angel, but if they were to hear the audio book of his own book, it proves very differently. I actually want to go over that more. I mean, I just say, let them talk about how great Mark is, and I'll keep playing his audiobook.
Chapter 41, Cotton Fever. Not wanting to be alone following the death of his girlfriend, Demery, Lane Staley moved into my place while I was acting the rat on a wheel through a hell tour of Europe. He and my alleged statutory rapist, cross-dressing protege, St. Louis Simon, lived in my apartment smoking and selling crack and arguing with one another over junkie etiquette while I was gone. The first thing Lane said when I walked through the door was, "Whoa, man, what the hell happened to you?" "Let's just say it was a rough fucking ride," I said, and left it at that. I was relieved to have reliable sources of heroin at my disposal once more, and the three of us stayed awake for days on end, alternately hitting the pipe, with Simon obsessively scanning the floor looking for what we might have dropped. Eventually he, like so many other addicts and transients who had lived with and worked for me in the past, went for a walk one day and simply never came back. 3 weeks after my return from Europe, I got buzzed from the front door late one night, and when I went downstairs and looked out, there was my traveling bag sitting on the front steps to my building, courtesy of British Airways. Lane spent a few more months in squalor with me in my small one-bedroom apartment. He never stopped grieving Demery's death. After a while, his father, Phil, also an addict, took up Simon's dubious duties as our runner, which made for a weird dynamic. Lane would often nod standing up, bent over at what appeared to be a painful angle, with his head almost to the floor. Nonetheless, he became angry whenever Phil quietly caught a nod sitting on the couch. He would videotape his father, then force him to look at it, cruelly ridiculing his own dad for doing the same thing we all did every day. He obviously carried some resentment of Phil, a man I'd found to be just as sweet, funny, and smart as his son, as well as his physical mirror image. Finally, after almost 4 months, Lane began to crave isolation and moved back into the impenetrable penthouse condo in the university district he had bought, and I was again by myself. As I'd come home with next to no money from my painful, fruitless tour, my phone and electricity were soon shut off. Before long, I was cooking up my daily batches of crack to sell on a small old Coleman propane camping stove and shooting dope by candlelight at night.
There's the Coleman reference, but yeah, that's probably just, yeah.
Still had a pager. One day, I received a page from Lane. I walked across 9th Avenue to Harborview Hospital to the grimy, germ-covered payphone at the bus stop I always used but hated to touch. I wiped off the receiver with the sleeve of my shirt and called him collect. "Hey man, I heard from somebody that the cops are looking for you. Something about stolen property. Keep your head down." I asked him where he had heard it, and his answer was a bit vague, but the story nonetheless gave me pause. After Lane's warning, I stayed in my bathroom all day and night waiting for customers. I'd turned the buzzer off long before because not only did those street people I'd foolishly given my apartment number to harass me around the clock, I had run into Christian so often while meeting some shabby crackhead at the front door that it was way too obvious. Now I told them not to shout up at me anymore, but to throw a small piece of gravel up to get my attention. Then I would quietly creep down the back stairs and do the deal at the door into the alley behind the building. I kept all the drugs on me so I could flush them down the toilet if indeed the cops did burst through the door someday. After a week or so had passed, I started feeling like the coast was clear. I got some dough together to pay the power bill, eased up, and allowed myself to live in the rest of the apartment again. I started letting a young homeless dealer named Cyril I'd met on the corner of 3rd and Pine in downtown Seattle sleep on the mattress in my dining room in exchange for a few balloons of heroin a day. It was a boon for me. Unlike many of the homeless addicts who had shared my place in the past, Cyril didn't aggravate me and kept quiet whenever he was around. Rather than having to hit the streets to hustle, Cyril did all that for me. Thanks to his efforts, I could stay home and focus on making and selling crack and staving off the dope sickness that constantly hounded me. Early one morning, I was nodding on the couch when there was a knock on my door. "Seattle Police Department, open up." "1 minute," I said, thinking, "God damn it, you idiot. He told you they were coming." I scrambled to get up and flush what I had. Halfway through the bedroom, I tripped on a chair and ate shit, hitting the floor with a huge resounding thud that reverberated throughout the place, badly fucking up my knee. After flushing all the drugs I was holding, I limped back to the door. With the chain still hitched, I opened the door an inch or so. "Mark Lanigan?" "Yes, that's me." "My name is Officer Davis. I'm coming in to have a chat with you." "What about?" As if I didn't know. "Listen, pal," he growled through the crack in the door. "If you know what's good for you, you'll shut the fuck up and let me in." After several long moments of hesitation, I unchained the door. One solitary uniformed officer strode in, straight past me. He peered at the crack pipes and spoons on the table I hadn't had time to clean up, and the mound of used syringes on the floor in the corner, probably 2 feet high. Sit down, he said. I'm going to take a quick look around. Officer Davis stuck his head into the other room where Cyril was out cold, face down on the bare mattress. A dirty mason jar half filled with bright red balloons of heroin sat in a large flower pot alongside a huge rotting cactus near his head. The cop looked back over his shoulder. Is he dead? No, sir, just asleep. He pulled up a chair and sat across from me at the coffee table. I'm not here to bust you for whatever you guys are doing up in this place. I'm here to talk to you about a stolen laptop you pawned a couple weeks ago. I just need to get a statement from you about it. My mind quickly went back to the computer I'd gotten for a $10 piece of rock from my former street colleague turned nemesis, the reckless, car-prowling Eritrean crackhead named Dawit, and sold at the pawn shop for $75. I thought, you finally got me, motherfucker. Without intending to, he'd finally succeeded in bringing me to my knees. Because Rob Chandler is a friend of yours, I'm not going to hang you up on this. Instead, I'm going to give you 2 options. Either go to rehab and get yourself cleaned up or leave town. If I find out you're still here or out on the street, I'm going to make what happened in San Francisco seem like Disneyland. Rob Chandler was a longtime friend, the owner of Capital Loan, the pawn shop where I sold stuff, borrowed money, and used the phone daily. The cop was referring to my arrest in San Francisco a few months earlier for possession of crack cocaine and paraphernalia. I'd gotten popped early one morning in the sketchy, drug-ridden Tenderloin district while the trees were in the Bay Area playing some shows. I spent a dope-sick day in jail, and the arrest was reported on MTV News and in the local Seattle newspapers. It had been a small nightmare, both immediate and sustained. But since an acquaintance of our tech, Danny Baird, was childhood friends with the prosecuting attorney, he'd simply dropped the charges and I'd walked away scot-free. The cop stuck a piece of paper in front of me. I want you to sign this statement, then I'm giving you a week to get lost. Either rehab or leave town, I don't care which. I sat there listening in silence. Without reading it, I signed the piece of paper he'd put in front of me. Without another word, he stood up and walked out. After the visit from the cops, things went downhill pretty quickly. I felt eyes on me everywhere. Unable to deal crack and not wanting to leave town,
Wait, let me text Harvey back because he called me. I can ask him if he can come on right now. Just a sec. Do you want to hop on my live stream right now if I call you? Question mark. All right, so the Sean Atwood thing isn't working. So I guess I'll just stick with doing what I'm doing with Joe. I guess I will just stick with doing what I'm doing with Joe. He's doing one interview with me about the case, period. I guess I will make it really good, period. I guess Joe and Harvey being together on a big platform doesn't matter enough for you, period. It would have mattered to Kurt a whole bunch, period. Glad you're making money, period. Take care, Chris, period. I already have plenty with him as well, period. You and Kurt are 2 different people, though, period. Chris Todd really is a piece of work. He's a piece of shit. You could get two of the fucking eyewitnesses and people involved in the case on together. But instead, he just wants to be famous for the fucking case. Fucking piece of shit. Fuck you, Chris Todd. I guess we got to do it ourselves. You know what? Thank you, Sarah Silverman, for having me charged and arrested and sent to jail. I can take that story and I can involve the fucking everything about Kurt Cobain that I've been involved with, and I can make it fucking huge. Fuck some person that's going to fucking try to make themselves famous for this case and twist the fucking story. Fuck that person. I don't care if they have connections with Disney. They can shove that up their butt. I imagine Disney would love that. Kurt really was right. People that are with the fucking media are pieces of crap. They don't even care about the people personally. They view them as a fucking money object. I think, I can't even say that. That would be bad. Damn. It shouldn't have happened to Kurt Cobain. What happened to Kurt Cobain should have happened to other people. The defaming him and everything. Good. He literally just wants to be famous about the case, and Sean Atwood is compromised. Isaac Cappy even exposed him too. There's all these fucking corporate whore people at the top controlling and giving money to fucking YouTubers, and then you cannot say this or that. It's stupid. Once you reach thousands of subscribers and are monetized, the sharks come out of the fucking waters. I swear to God. It's called selling out, and it happens on YouTube as well. It's stupid. Selling out is basically taking money and then you're restricted on what you can and cannot say. You want to be on this platform? Well, you can't say this because we're not going to allow you to be on there if you say that. You can say this and you can stick with this. That's what they fucking tell you. That's what Chris Todd was telling me that I had to do to be on Sean Atwood's channel. I have to leave Courtney Love out of it. Leave her out of the picture. And threatening that she's going to sue me and everything. Courtney is not going to do that. Even Tom said she wouldn't do that because that would make the case go to trial. That's soaked in bleach. Even though that's bullshit because they're all in on it together. But it would make everything go to trial. And then Tom would be in trouble, actually, as well. For Thursday and before with the phone calls. So I don't know. I guess, yeah. I have enough material now with Harvey and Joe to include my case of Sarah Silverman and make it really be known. The Sarah Silverman aspect, that's a big audience too of like thousands of people, if not like 1 million something. So they're going to think it's all going to be about me and Sarah Silverman and how I'm a bratty little person, whatever, fan that got sad. But then they're going to read more about the article thinking it's all about Sarah Silverman and loving her. And they're going to find out all about Joe Burns and everything about Kurt Cobain, which matters a whole lot fucking more than any fucking Sarah Silverman thing. So I have that in my advantage. Chris Todd could become famous on whatever platform he wants and leave Courtney Love out of it and just view Joe and the other people as props in a game, like a Monopoly game, and not get actually personally close with them. Maybe fake that he is, but it's forced and it's stupid and it's controlled. the people that actually want the truth out get kind of pushed away from your attention. Sarah Silverman is a comedian. She had me charged and arrested and sent to jail for 7 months in 2023 for reaching out. It went really bad, but I had a mental breakdown and I threatened her, and I shouldn't have done that. I guess I should have been like Courtney Love, and then I would get to appreciate so much money and a great lifestyle. Sarah and her sister and ex Jimmy Kimmel all link back to the Epstein list as well. And they're Zionist. Sarah's sister is even in Israel, and they're proud Zionist, extreme Zionist. It's on their own Facebook. And they run child foster organizations out of Israel. And these little children get to meet their favorite celebrities. Isn't that so cool? They get to party with them too and do drugs. Oh, we're not supposed to know about that. We're not supposed to know about Second Nurture and Susan Silverman. Yeah. And they put me in a cell with a fucking long-term offender, dangerous offender that wasn't even supposed to have a cellmate. And I lied to everyone in the fucking pod. I told them it was David Spade that had me charged and arrested. And then I told that stupid cellmate who it actually was. And he used that against me, saying, if you tell anyone else, they'll beat the shit out of you. And then I felt like I was stuck with that fucking piece of shit. Yeah, I had 2 things. So in 2013, I had my near-death experience when I was hit by a car on my bicycle. After that, I started walking around with a knife on me. That was 2013, because I would use it to cut myself because I could barely feel anything. I was numb to the point of even being on a couch listening to music, and the music having no effect on me. Like I could not feel a single thing. And so I would cut myself to feel. And I was stupid. I was caught with that. I was talking suicidal at the time, and then the police came and they took me to the hospital, but realized I had the knife on me, and they sent me to jail for like 7 days in 2013 when I was 19. Before that, it was when I was 16 in 2009, and I got expelled from my high school for spraying my teacher with a fire extinguisher in front of the class and some of the classmates. Years later, I see an Offspring music video where they're doing that exact thing, and I'm like, wow. But I've had a crazy life, but I haven't really done anything too bad. I've been homeless. I've never been a part of any gang. I've never sold drugs. I've done drugs. I only smoke pot now. And sometimes I'll drink some beer. But in my early 20s, I was experimenting with like everything. And it's not how I should have spent any of it. I'm glad I did it then, though, and now I'm not. I didn't get hooked in like my older years, because then that would be a real problem. Even more. Yeah. And thank you. And I was blogging ever since like 2004. And then YouTube came out in 2005, and I started that. And then, so I was 14 in 2007. So I was like 12 when I started this. But I didn't have this name. I came up with that only like in 2023. And I experienced a lot of homelessness when I got around the age of 16 up until 25 or 26. No, age 24. And I didn't take anything really seriously then. But come 2019, I did, but then I was used in a really awful game from people involved in something really horrible to Isaac Cappy that just fooled me and got me to put out misinformation and disinformation. And that really scared me, and it really shocked me and was just horrible. But now I've been really taking this YouTube stuff seriously, and now I'm monetized finally for the first time ever. And finally doing something with it, with what I started in 2005. And I just don't want to be used by more people that want to put out misinformation. That's what's happened before I even got involved with this really seriously, with the Cobain case. I don't want to deal with it here too. Yeah, my mom had a back injury too. She was a nurse, but then she tried to help some old man that was falling down the stairs, and she did, but she fell on her back and has been on disability ever since. Yeah, it's so bad when you even get tempted or you do a drug, like a hard drug, and then you just get really addicted. You can go like 7 days without eating so quickly and you don't even realize it. That was my experimenting once in a while in my early 20s, but now I'm 32. It's really scary, yeah. It was weird. I had this, I'll be like Mark Lanigan talking about his drug experiences. One time I did hard drugs in my early 20s, and I sat on my couch after, and I was able to play the whole Nirvana Nevermind CD in my own head, and I could pause it, I could forward it, I could rewind it in my own head, just by thinking of it. I could remove Kurt's lyrics and only hear the drums, or I could remove the drums and the bass and the guitar and only hear Kurt screaming. And it was all in my own head when I was sitting on my couch. It was really freaky. It'd be amazing if there was a way to do all that stuff with our minds without drugs. And I know there is. That's the lucid dreaming state, the hypnagogic state, the in-between waking and sleep state. As well as meditation, you can hear audio, manifestations. But that ended up scaring the shit out of me, and I never wanted to do that again. Lucid dreaming even scared the shit out of me when I was a baby, but again in 2012, before I even started doing any hard drugs, I was in a sleep paralysis state and Freddy Krueger appeared, and that was scary as fuck. I locked my door, I was pacing back and forth, yelling at talking to myself to wake up. I'm like, wake up, in a panic state. I don't even want to put myself back there right now. And it involved my next door neighbor at that time that was blaring music, so I was thumping on his wall And he threatened to kill me like that week after that sleep paralysis dream of him being Freddy Krueger. After that, though, I wrote the Nancy girl from the 80s Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and she actually wrote back to me an email. She's like, you have to find this most strongest part of yourself, like Nancy did when facing Freddy. And just remember that you're really powerful. And it's fucking freaky that they make a really bad horror movie on a thing that's real. Sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming. It would have happened to a lot more people. Yeah, and now it was so scary that during my waking hours, I'm like, I'm friends with Freddy Krueger. I give him an island. I give him everything he wants. He's happy. That way, next time I dream, he won't be after me. Because that was freaky as fuck. I do not want that. Freddy versus Jason, that's the freakiest shit. I had ones with Jason and Freddy, but I was able to like shrink them down to like paper size, and they were like miniature little toys. So that was a good dream that I had control of. But imagine being on the dock in Freddy versus Jason that night with Freddy or Jason, and you're there and you don't know where to run, and you just have to face them and die. That fucking sucks. That hasn't happened to me though so far. It can, but just remember in that state that you're like Chris Angel. You can do anything on Mind Freak in that lucid dreaming in between hypnagogic sleep paralysis state. And there are people like Sam Luffy and Courtney Love that would like to take advantage of and scare people that are in those states when they're in them too. Remember that too. But remember that you are the Mind Freak. You can be just like Chris Angel in that state. So can they, but so can you. Now, that's part of the spiritual aspects that I don't really speak about much because many people are not too open-minded. But it's things they need to know anyway. The dream I had recently was in the living room at the house, at Kurt's house at 171 Lake Washington Boulevard East. I know it so well. No wonder, like, when I'm sleeping, I'm thinking about it. There were people there. I felt Kurt's spirit and his mom. Like, if I was more conscious, I would see them, but I wasn't. But I heard Kurt's mom, what I believe to be Kurt's mom, I just know, inner knowing, said, it was the living room. It was the living room. Like in a nice way. But that's my dreams, and that was really real though, and vivid, but who's to say? I just really want to get in the hypnagogic in-between state again and see Kurt and remember it, like really consciously remember it, not semi-consciously remember it or vividly. I want to really wake up with the awareness I was just there with Kurt and tell everybody what he's had to say. I'm sick of listening to the enemy over and over again and not knowing who the enemy is and still listening to them. And then finding years later, I've wasted all this time doing this. I'm not going to do that until I'm 50 or 60 years old. The lying needs to stop. And Danny is a different story. Danny was pissed off at a whole bunch of people. But I believe he did get Courtney down to Seattle. But he had no business to be at the house. He arrives the next day thinking, what the fuck happened here? I just brought Courtney down, and this is where she lives too, with Kurt Cobain. Because it was on the news at that time, it was Courtney's place too. But he knew it was a murder too, and he wanted to get them all in trouble. And we were down with each other, getting them in trouble. Just like Joe and I are. But Joe's not twisting anything. Joe's literally legit and will get bad at people if they even talk too much about the case with him. It's traumatic for him. And Danny actually did die in that bed too. He wasn't there involved in the murder. He wasn't even there probably on the 7th. He was only there on the 8th checking everything out after Courtney was brought down on the private jet on the Boeing field. And that's on Thursday, April 7th. Not the day of the murder. Sorry, not the night, early morning at nighttime of the murder, when the murder occurred. Chris Todd has a lot of other legal cases going on with other true crime cases. Joe can see that. Anybody can see that. Why would you get involved with this guy that's literally lying about stuff? And that's Chris Todd. The second book, perfect. But Chris is definitely not perfect. That book is great. Chris, Yeah. Yeah, there's these non-disclosure agreements, so everyone, even on the stage. Oh, Joe just messaged me. Perfect. He's going to hit me up in a couple hours. Perfect. Harvey still hasn't responded, but yeah. I guess we'll continue a little bit with Mark's book, and then I'll go and I'll call Harvey back.
Tempted to go to rehab. With my health insurance from the Musicians Union, I checked myself into a grim detox facility in the Ballard neighborhood, northwest of the city. After filling out some forms, a gray-haired nurse led me to an uninviting ice-cold room. Without giving me meds of any kind, she handed me a hospital gown and told me to get in bed at 11 o'clock in the morning. I undressed and put on the uncomfortable gown, then lay there under a threadbare blanket watching the incessant rain beat down on the cement sidewalk outside the window. After about 30 minutes, I knew I wasn't going to stay. I said, "Fuck this," out loud to nobody, put on my clothes, and slipped out a back door. I called Danny Baird, who was functioning as my manager by that time. He came and got me in his old Ford pickup truck and drove me back up to First Hill. The first of the month was coming. I didn't have rent and was plagued by a rotten wisdom tooth and an infuriating infestation of lice. I shoplifted tube after tube of Oragel and was continuously squirting it into the hole in the back of my mouth, where the remaining jagged piece of bone made my jaw throb with pain. Still, my head pounded round the clock, making it hard to focus on anything, and I was constantly trying to brush off the vermin that I could feel crawling on my neck night and day. I stayed until the
Sorry, I want to find the chapter again with Tom Grant.
Chapter 19, Spanking the Monkey.
Not that one. What the fuck?
Chapter 20, Parasite Child. In early November of 1993, shortly after I'd finished Whiskey for the Holy Ghost.
Not that one. Doesn't even give me them in order.
Chapter 22, Wilderness of Horrors. With Kurt gone, I lived close to the bone, estranged from family and all my non-using friends, haunted by my willful absence on the day Kurt died,
That was said pretty fast, Mark.
disappearing into the painful wilderness of horrors my memories created for days on end. Always broke, I'd begun selling crack outside of my apartment building to street people, mostly Eritrean and Ethiopian migrants. I spent the profits on heroin. No matter how many drugs I did, I still couldn't escape myself. I couldn't sleep more than a few minutes at a time, usually sitting up in an uncomfortable wooden straight-backed grade school-style chair.
Well, imagine the spiritual things happening to Mark at that time. All those kids committing suicide, even shooting their own heads off with shotguns. I imagine spiritually he's having a really bad attack happening to him at the same time.
That sat near the noisy, wheezing old radiator under one of my windows, frequently awakened by the seagulls' incessant screaming outside. I was loath to ever lie down, convinced that if I did, I would never wake up. The result was mounting damage to my feet. My toes were constantly numb on the surface, but painful as hell when I walked around. If I accidentally knocked them against something while wandering my apartment in a mindless haze, the pain was excruciating. Courtney leaned on me nearly every other day, for company, for drugs, for emotional support, for a shoulder to cry on, and an ear to talk into. She told me that Kurt had been obsessively listening to my record Whiskey for the Holy Ghost often in the weeks before he died. I was horrified. Not only had I not responded when he was calling out for my help, a fact I naturally kept to myself, to the extent that I'd lied to a Rolling Stone reporter, saying I'd not heard from him for weeks previous to his death. But the thought that somehow my music had lent itself to his suicidal state shattered my already stunned psyche. Totally devastated, the sense of obligation I felt towards Courtney was turning out to be more than I could give. I felt torn between what I thought Kurt would want me to do and my natural inclination to avoid her at all costs. She was extremely quick mentally, with ferocious 20 steps ahead intelligence and a biting sense of humor that reminded me at times of Kurt himself. She was also very generous and always interesting in a whirlwind, over-the-top fashion. But life was too all-consuming, too dramatic, difficult, exhausting, and messed up in her sphere. As someone who largely preferred to go through the world unnoticed, the few times we were out in public together, she drew so much attention to herself, and by extension me. I was embarrassed, even pissed off. She talked me into seeing a movie with her and then chattered loudly throughout. Not only did everyone in the theater hate our guts, they also knew exactly who was making all the noise. The smart and outspoken widow of a beloved international rock star who some blamed as the source of his unhappiness and the cause of his suicide. Courtney took no shit, but was a publicly unpopular figure and a constant target for it. I watched with increasing dismay every time I would see some TV show or magazine article where she was blamed or ridiculed. Worse still were the ongoing rumors of her possible involvement in a murder meant to look as suicide. Suddenly, Dylan was also vilified. Kurt had talked him into buying the shotgun he'd used to kill himself under the guise that it was needed for home protection. Both Dylan and I had become accustomed to performing these kinds of tasks for him simply because the imprisonment of his fame made going out into public a fucking drag he could not escape. The crackpot theories that insinuated Courtney and Dylan had conspired to murder Kurt were complete horseshit, but with her manic energy.
More lies and cover-up. Knowing how Mark reveals himself as a drug dealer that was constantly lying and ripping people off, admitting half-truths, like he even says this, really got to consider that when listening.
She did sometimes take me to my absolute limit. At one point, Dylan said to me, "Fuck, man, if anyone was going to have me kill somebody, it would have been Kurt having me do Courtney." Something I knew actually made perfect sense. Whole guitarist Eric Erlandson, a thoughtful, caring, and intelligent guy considered a friend, gave me a stern talking to. I was not to score any drugs for Courtney. I took that to heart. Eric was the one person in our circle who I looked up to as a no-nonsense, even-keeled, steadying.
He's involved in it too. Just a sec. Oh, just a sec. Hey, do you want to...
You're on with Joe right now, or?
Oh, right now it's just me, but there's people in the comment section. Do you want to go back in that room?
Oh, no, that's okay. I just was on the phone with a friend of mine, and I saw something going on, so.
Do you want to, we can quickly say something just even for 5 minutes?
That's okay. I'm not lay low here.
Okay, yeah. Joe's going to get back to me in 2 hours.
Okay, great. All right, that sounds good.
Okay, I'll call you.
See your webcast, but I'll just, looking out.
All right, sweet. Yeah, I'm live right now,
Okay.
definitely.
Talk to you later.
All right, talk to you soon. All right, we'll wait until Joe gets back. We'll do it like that on a live stream. And then I'll talk to Joe about it. And I'll get to work on the Joseph Burns Hot Topic podcast right away. I really have to do that. Until then, we have a couple hours, so or less. And I'll call Joe regardless if he doesn't. So we'll just continue with this for now.
Influence. He always seemed to be the rock in the eye of the hurricane, the proverbial boy who stood on the burning deck. It wasn't like I enjoyed playing that role in Courtney's life, but I felt as though I had inherited it. As she ratcheted up the intensity of her focus on me, I found it increasingly hard to live with and nearly impossible to get out of. I resolved to extricate myself from the situation. Something told me there was a 99% chance that shit would meet fan in the process. Early one morning, I heard her voice on my answering machine. "Hey, what are you doing? I want to see you. Come over." I ignored it. An hour or so later, I got another message, this one in a somewhat more seductive voice. "Hey, sugar, I want to see you. What are you doing?" Again, I ignored it. She would give up and turn in another direction for solace soon. But throughout the rest of the day and well into the evening, the calls kept coming. Her tone shifted from faux alluring to slightly harsh to finally, "You motherfucker, where the fuck are you? Call me back, you son of a bitch." As it got later, I grew tired of listening to these abusive messages and unplugged the machine altogether. And just in case she was motivated to come over, I turned off the front door buzzer. My mind a bit lighter after making the decision to disengage. I lit some incense, turned off the lights, put on a VHS tape of 7 Samurai with the sound off, and lay back on the couch with my feet out on the coffee table to try and catch a nod. Somehow, I fell into a deep sleep. I was awakened by a light knocking on my apartment door, voices in the hallway. I recognized instantly the fawning voice of my dickhead apartment manager, Christian, who I hated and who hated me. He had passed out flyers to everyone on my side of the building, telling tenants to report it anytime someone yelled up to my window, something I had instructed some customers to do if my lights were on. I'd not wanted certain fiends to have knowledge of my apartment number and thus buzz me incessantly all night. When I wanted to be left alone, I simply left the lights off. Christian was determined to get me either arrested or kicked out, preferably both. "I can't believe you're in my building," he gushed. "I had no idea Mark was a friend of yours." "Oh yes, we're very close. He was supposed to come over today. I'm worried about him." The other voice belonged to Courtney. It was clear she had this prick eating out of her hand. I tiptoed over to the door to hear them better, and by reflex grabbed the badly dented aluminum baseball bat next to the door. The next thing I heard blew my mind and enraged me at the same time. "Well, seeing how you are such close friends, I can unlock the door and let you in to take a look around, just to make sure nothing's wrong." He wasn't just sucking up to the famous person in his presence. I knew he also intended to take a look around my place and make note of any incriminating contraband. I quietly took a deep breath and suddenly broke out in a cold, sticky sweat. My mind seized on the dark thought, and
I can tell he knew that everyone would hate him. But now, unfortunately, he died. But he lived with knowing that. I'm trying to
Chapter
find it.
25, Night Out with Jerry. One night I went out alone to a local.
Trying to find it.
Chapter 23, Go Fuck a Donkey.
Not that one. All right.
Chapter 37, Secret Death Games. Shortly after returning home from the tedium of Lollapalooza, I got buzzed one day. I went downstairs, and to my surprise, there was a guy I'd never expected to see in Seattle, St. Louis Simon. A year or so earlier, I'd been in St. Louis, out on the street in daytime trying to score. Some street person I'd hit up showed me a house and said there were guys there that had dope, but that they were dangerous and not to go walking up and knock on the door. After an hour or so of watching this place for any sign of activity, a tall, young, handsome blonde guy wearing a woman's skirt had come out of the house and walked up the sidewalk directly towards me. I stopped him and asked where the dope was. Not at that place, he said. Those guys are fucked. Let's get a cab and I'll take you somewhere better. We went to the house of a young couple who had a baby sleeping in a cradle, scored, and he, not being an addict, exchanged numbers and went our separate ways. I called him the next day, and again he took me to the same place to re-up. I had taken a liking to this helpful, strange dude and had given him not only my phone number, but also my address in Seattle and told him to look me up if he were ever in the area. Hey man, what the fuck are you doing here? I asked, wondering what had brought this kid more than halfway across the country into my apartment. I hitchhiked out here. It took almost a month. I'm ass-kicked. Can I come in? I opened the front doors of the building and said, sure man, come on up. Once inside my apartment, he laid his backpack on the floor and then lay down on the floor himself, using it for a pillow. Hey dude, go on in through those French doors. There's a mattress there. He slid apart the heavy wooden doors that separated the living room from the dining room. The dining room was just a nearly empty room that held one small round table where I'd often sit in the morning looking for a vein for my first hit of the day, a couple of hard wooden chairs, a stereo, and some vinyl records, a few books, my phone and answering machine, and the mattress where Shadow and I had ripped off so many guys who had come in thinking they were going to get some pussy. After Simon had slept for a few hours, he woke to the sound of me cooking up a batch of crack in the kitchen. He looked around the corner. Is that for you or to sell? Both, I replied. Why? You want a hit? I'd love one. I knew I had yet another homeless crackhead on my hands. Almost the entire time since Anna had left me, there had been sometimes one, sometimes two other drug addicts staying with me rent-free. They were naturally expected to do all the shit I didn't want to do in order to earn their keep, running crack down to customers, running to the dope house for me, etc. St. Louis Simon was a perfect runner. Sending a heroin addict out to score your heroin was an invitation to get burned. They'd return with dope, but only after raiding the bag and then bringing me a light package. Slayer Hippie had been the king of that move. Dylan and John Hicks were the only two honest junkies I ever knew, who I totally trusted to bring me back what they went out to get. Simon was not a junkie, just a crackhead, and the crack was the one thing in my house I always kept a strict handle on. If he wanted a hit, it could only be handed out by my benevolent goodness. After a couple weeks, he admitted he had left Missouri to avoid a statutory rape charge. According to his story, he'd met a young girl on the same street where I'd first met him. She had invited him home, and in the middle of their sexual encounter, her father had walked in. He'd beaten the shit out of him and called the cops, who took him in. She'd said she was 18, but she was 15, and he was 23. After his mom secured his bail, he immediately stuffed his backpack full of both the men's and women's clothes, mood, and split. My place had been his intended destination from the drop. We fell into a routine where I manufactured crack, he delivered it and brought back the dough, and we both smoked all day. Sometimes I'd realize 5 or 6 full days and nights had passed without either of us sleeping.
See, that's just like what we were saying. Hey, can you hear this if I play it? This is one of Kurt's songs that he was working on towards the end of his life, but somebody finished it up. It's called Burn My Bridges. Britches. Britches. Can you hear this? Can you hear that? I'm going to play it this way, just in case you can't hear it. It's one of the last songs Kurt was working on, and somebody fixed it up. It's called Burn My Britches. I might get copyrighted, but hopefully I'll still stay up. I'll like pause it in between. Here we go. Can you hear that? So that was during the last course of the months of his life. I'll play the rest of it. So yeah, that was one of the last songs Kurt was working on, as well as You Know You're Right. So let's see what else we can go over here. I really want to point out, like even Harvey sees it, where Soaked in Bleach, how they're starting out the movie by literally covering for all 4 of them, 5 of them, not just Dylan and himself, but for Courtney and Callie and Mark, and maybe Eric Erlandson as well, and possibly others. Well, Danny too, yeah, because Danny flew her down, but he possibly, most likely, did not have a clue what was happening.
Up to this room above Cobain's garage and made the shocking discovery this morning.
A suicide note was found.
This is a puzzling case, a very disturbing case.
It first got reported that Kurt was missing, and Courtney Love hired private investigator Tom Grant.
I'd been involved in missing persons cases before. Some red flags started popping up immediately, so I began recording every conversation I had with Courtney during the entire period that I worked for her.
My name has it all wrong, all like that.
It could be made to look like a suicide.
People that I do this, I paid.
I've looked into cases that look like were suicides that turned out to be homicides.
Cobain's wife, singer Courtney Love, was in England on tour with her band Hole when the body was discovered.
because she flew back, and she wasn't there when the murder happened either.
I knocked for at least 5 minutes. If he's there, he would have answered.
All right. I just don't want to end up on the wrong end of a shotgun. Let's go.
Here's the fake house search on Thursday, April 7th. Kurt? Kurt? That's pretty freaky. I can say it perfectly.
Here we go. Careful.
Call out. While you're in there, call out. Say, Kurt, hello, Kurt. Make a lot of noise.
Kurt! Kurt! Kurt!
I can share my screen and show this. I don't know why I'm not doing that. I will do that just a sec. One moment. How do I share the screen? Just a sec. Whoa. All right, just a sec. Comment if you can see this. Could you guys see that? Okay. They're literally covering up right there why they found drugs. We have no interest in knowing why they found rohypnol or drugs or anything compared to the murder. Not, thinking about Rome and everything. We're thinking about this right here, what happened here at the house. They're covering for themselves. Tom's covering for him where he knows he could get caught with doing illegal things. Nowhere except for the greenhouse where Courtney and Dylan and Tom and Mark were, where Kurt's body was. We didn't see it because there was a light, so we didn't know anything was there. If there's a light hanging from a surface, there's probably something there. This would be Courtney and Tom playing us. Remember Hank Harrison's book, Love Kills? She uses private investigators to do her work. This is all manipulation. This is literally all manipulation, and not just from Courtney, but from Tom Grant himself with Courtney. And if we don't realize that, nothing good is going to happen for Kurt Cobain here in getting justice for him. We should all start clapping right now. This is a really good Hollywood presentation we're listening to. Joe Rogan and Billy Corgan talking about this. They knew exactly what was happening right here. This is a cover up. This is the cover up. He did see the greenhouse, and Courtney was there. I can see Kurt clapping right now. And if you look at my Facebook page, you will see videos of kittens and me and photos of my grandchildren. I am a good person that works with Courtney Love, and you can trust me. Okay, here we start with the bullshit and the fake calls from Courtney and Tom Grant. I'm afraid. Always redirecting the attention away from them. And here Tom goes again with doing that by saying, I had no clue who Kurt Cobain was in 1994 or even 1991. I had no clue who Nirvana was. Always redirecting your attention away from them. So more manipulation from Courtney and Tom. Hank Harrison would agree. By the way, Tom Grant was just happened to be working on another case right here at the same hotel, Peninsula Hotel, with a different girl that was a stripper or hooker. Isn't it ironic? There's so many ironic instances in this case involving this guy right here, and Courtney and Callie, and Mark and Dylan, the main people. Courtney wants you to know she really didn't want this to get out to the press. That's why it's still out here. Pretty good, Tom. Let's do this. Yeah, he's totally compromised, and he did not miss the greenhouse. He was in this kind of greenhouse behind him here, staging the scene with Courtney and Dylan and Mark. I bet you would have liked that. I just gotta pause this and say, Courtney and Lady Gaga have that same kind of hooker face. I like to make up a song. It's called, you know how Lady Gaga has poker face? I call it hooker face. So if Kurt knew from Pat Smear and Joe Mama that she was staying in a place like this and like doing drugs and everything, why would he stay in a rehab to get sober for Frances when she's staying in a hotel, literally doing drugs with people? I could see Kurt walking out just by finding that out after Joe Mama and Pat Smear visit him in the rehab. Then he's like, fuck this, and calling like for a flight out of there. Probably what happened. I think Pat Smear and Joe Mama would have told him, like, Courtney is doing this bogusly. She's at a hotel. And yeah, that means that Courtney would have smooched up, like tried to hit on Tom Grant as well. And Tom Grant even has a fucking quote from Playboy on his case manual study. Boink. He's literally covering for Courtney Love right here. And so is this guy, whether he knows it or not. We don't really hear much about him. We only hear from the spokesperson that's always relied on by Courtney. I do feel sorry for Tom. It did, I see, hurt him over time. But he's got to be the bigger person than Courtney. And if he's not going to be that, then he's not going to be that. Aren't you better than a skanky drug addict, Tom? I know you are. Your soul is. She wouldn't even consider Jesus Christ. I'd like you to show yourself to be better. She made sure to suck up to him after, too. There's photos of her with him in 1995. Well, I guess you can say that about me now, too, since I have involvement with Joe and Harvey. And I want to make it all about them, what they have to say. I just have to find a way to really put it out there. Then they can tell me more and they can say more. I can record it and I can get it to the right people. And not people like Chris Todd that just want to be famous and exploit the situation and make it something it isn't, covering things up like April 7th. Because if they cover up what happened on Thursday, April 7th, with Courtney and Tom being there in the greenhouse with Dylan and Mark and possibly Callie, then they're really covering up the whole thing. Even when they started faking the phone calls and the fake house search and all that, and Mark Lanigan's actual involvement with Tom Grant. So they're actually discrediting it while making us think they're doing something good. I feel like he was saying that in a sad way for Courtney, knowing Courtney would watch this film when he said that about divorce, about it coming up all the time. I literally just came. Just a second. Thank you. It has to be. I put out, like, there's connections. No matter who did it, they're there. The Unsolved Mysteries, his last book, his last album, Joe's statements, Bonnie's, Dylan Carlson, his wife, her family actually lived right nearby me somewhere in Toronto. So this is the fourth. If she wasn't there on the third, but she wanted to make sure the people knew where she was. It's all right to say that. You're just gonna ask them like all these conspiracy theories and everything, and then asking them hard-hitting questions. There's nothing wrong with doing that in a public space with people around, as long as you're being polite. Well, it's not polite to ask this. We'll just open it up like I'm told by these conspiracy theories that this and that. And instead of saying whatever people say normally to him, say April 7th, Thursday, 1994, Tom Grant, Courtney in a red dress. See how his face turns. Yeah, don't be like Mark Lanigan in that situation. If you deny it, just like Sarah Silverman and Jimmy Kimmel. These Epstein associates are like all the same type of breed of people. I just gotta say, Angelina Jolie is beautiful, but like, it doesn't come down to beauty. It comes down to who the fucking person is and what they're doing. Because there's a lot of occultic stuff and horrible stuff in Hollywood going on that we now know about that we didn't know back then. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of covering up who was there on certain days. I'll be right back in like 30 seconds. All right, I know this is not professional, but I was taking a pee and I started thinking about Richard Lee. I hope he responds back to the email I sent to him. Anyway, here we go. Which includes Tom. I mean, Richard Lee was one of the first, you could even say, the 90s version of a YouTuber. The first vlogger on this case. For Michelle to insult him and make him upset to where he's not even saying anything more is really nasty to do to people, especially someone that was involved before you were. Well, then you were already fooled. We'll go back to the important parts that actually matter in this. Yeah, television access show something. He's subscribed here, KCWM or something. And they did that on April 4th, Courtney and the rest of these people, because he had died on Sunday. The scene was staged. She was ready for the electrician to come on Tuesday, April 5th, but he had to reschedule for Friday, April 8th, when they knew the body would be discovered. And they had one more day on April 7th to make sure everything was perfect before the news got a hold of it and everything was out forever like it is now. Can you hear that? You can't hear anything? Can you hear that? Let's see. You can hear my voice, but you can't hear this? Is it just because I'm pausing it and speaking in between? Can anybody else hear the video when I'm playing it? That's weird. Well, this is all fucking scripting by Tom and Courtney. And you have that all the way through here, even with Don Cameron somewhere in here, and the rest of them being lazy and lousy police. And then you have the rest of the bullshit here. You have some really good truth right here. But you don't understand that Tom's part of it, so you keep looking in the wrong directions. All right. Yeah, it is. Let's see. Here, I'll do it like this. I'll play it on my TV, and then I'll play the audio on my cell phone until that dies. 656. One moment. Whoa.
That should get things going, right? What about Caitlin? I know that they're together.
I've got someone watching her apartment. He hasn't showed up. I want to put someone on your house, too, because sooner or later, he's got to come home.
But if Kurt's still in Seattle, he's hiding out, you know? He's not going to be at the house. He likes to stay in hotels, you know, fancy hotels downtown. He uses the name Simon Ritchie. Or Bill Bailey. You should check that out.
The next day on Monday, when we hadn't had any success with the really nice hotels in Seattle, we began calling some of the others, the smaller motels. And we located a motel, and there was a Bill Bailey registered there.
I want to send one of our guys over there to see if it's Kurt.
No. I don't want Kurt to know that I'm looking for him.
This would be Tom and Courtney just making up more stories about what they did when he was down there. And what they did after when driving around Carnation and everything weeks later.
Send somebody over there. Just have them watch the hotel, okay?
Okay.
I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes went by.
But what do you mean you called the hotel? I thought that you said that you didn't want Kurt.
No, Tom.
Okay. Listen, if he's not there, then I think we need to set up a team at the Lake Washington house.
Yeah, it's a waste of time, Tom. You know what? He's not going to be there.
Is there a reason that you don't want surveillance on your house?
Yes, because we don't need it. Callie's there. He'll tell me if Kurt shows up.
This is all staged because he's dead on Sunday the 3rd. And then she's calling on the 3rd later in the morning. This is literally all staged. And it's really good. Courtney is a great actress, and she really does fool people. She really is good. She really is that great. And she really does use private investigators to do her work, just like her dad said.
Earlier in the day, in a conversation, Courtney told me she didn't trust Callie. She said he was one of the best liars she's ever met. But now, all of a sudden, she tells me he won't tell her.
And then they want to blame it on Callie, who really had nothing to even do with it, other than telling Courtney when Kurt was there before these phone calls started. All right, here we go.
I'm not as effective for you here as I would be up there. I'd like to move the entire search up to Seattle. I know I got guys on the ground there, local guys, you know, and if I were there, I could move them along.
That's fine. You can go.
That's great. That's great.
Why don't you go up there, Courtney? Because I can't. I have...
And remember, Grunge, he wasn't there on Sunday the 3rd, and Courtney wasn't either. He was only there on Thursday, April 7th, 1994, the day before they knew the body would be discovered. And that's in his case manual study and in Maureen Herman's statement that she had from Dylan when he got high with her. He told her that him and Courtney found the body the day before the electrician did, which was Thursday, April 7th. Here we go.
Business to take care of here.
All right, well, look, I'd appreciate if you didn't tell anyone I was traveling up there. I mean, if anyone knows, they might tell Kurt, and then he could flee.
Absolutely. I think it's a really good idea.
Okay. I'm gonna get going.
Save the American icon, Tom.
As I was getting ready to fly to Seattle, Courtney told me about Dylan Carlson.
And now I understand why Rosemary Carroll didn't want to have anything to do with Tom after a little while. She grew weary of him and Courtney and the rest around him at that time. One moment. It all makes sense when you put the correct dates together in people, not when you see it all in a jumbled way.
Dylan knew all the hangouts. He knew the house really well. Kurt's best friend was Dylan Carlson.
So what are you thinking? Is he suicidal?
No, not at all. He's been under a lot of pressure, but he's been handling things pretty good. I mean, I know he and Courtney have been having a lot of troubles lately, but I don't know why Kurt married her.
They don't get along. They don't agree about anything. They're always fighting, that type of thing.
This thing in Rome. Did anybody say that may have been him trying to kill himself?
No, it was an accident. Everybody knows that.
I asked him several times about whether Kurt was suicidal or not, and it was almost a joke to him. You know, it's like, no, of course not.
Because I'm thinking, if he was as suicidal as she says he is, why would she let him buy a shotgun?
He's not suicidal. He bought that shotgun the day he went to rehab. Been a burglary of the house recently. The police had just confiscated his other gun, so I registered it in my name. Trust me, if he was suicidal, I would never let him get a shotgun.
Singer Courtney Love says Cobain had first written a suicide note to her, which said, in part, "It's not fun for me anymore. I can't live this life." There was a mythology that, oh yeah, everybody knew he was suicidal. That was just obvious. It was no big surprise when he finally killed himself. And then you go to those closest to him, the people that knew him best, and none of them believed he was suicidal.
I've never heard Kurt talk about suicide or anything. He's always seemed happy around me, you know, quiet, shy, but definitely happy. He never hinted to me that he was depressed.
His music and his lyrics kind of portrayed a darker side to some of his emotions, but I think that was kind of glorified.
People start to analyze the lyrics and look at some of the things that he wrote. Say, well, of course, look at what he wrote here. Obviously, he's talking about suicide.
Tired of people thinking, trying to put too much meaning into my lyrics, you know. A lot of times when I write lyrics, it's just the last second because I'm really lazy. And then I find myself having to come up with explanations for it. There may be one or two lines in a song here and there, but I swear to God, brother, it's really not that as much as it seems.
The pain in his stomach, this was a big thing, that his stomach pain that he'd been suffering for years was so severe that it made him want to kill himself. He did talk like that, there's no question. And once that was diagnosed...
By the way, the RCMP are involved with my case, and so are the FBI and OPP, and you can see that in my Dropbox with my court documents regarding myself and Sarah Silverman. And they were watching me before I was even arrested, before I knew Sarah was actually listening and hearing and watching my messages and video messages that I was sending to her Instagram back in 2021, 22, 23, early 23 maybe. Yeah, they were messing with me, and I was walking to the store one time. They're like, the guy's really tall, bald head, and he's he's on his phone and he's looking at me and he's saying, "Well, we know he likes to eat food." And that was a week before I was arrested. And that was right in the parking lot of the apartment where I am still to this day. I haven't moved. I haven't been able to. Anyone would have moved over little things, but I've stayed. Second. I really don't care. I'm like, bring it on. So is Harvey. So is Joe.
It was treated, and the pain went away.
How's your stomach? Did you find anything to... it's gone. Yeah. I finally been prescribed the right stomach medicine after 6 years.
Yeah, I was stupid to do a death threat.
Of being in constant pain. Finally, I haven't had a stomach problem for like over a year now.
The stomach pain and the outlook and his disposition seem to be very closely linked. He had given an interview.
But yeah, the FBI were involved even before that Sarah Silverman thing, because the Isaac Happy situation and my involvement was Thomas Schoenberger. Look up Robert David Steele, one of Trump's sidemen. He was asked by Thomas Schoenberger, and he got up off of camera and just walked off from the interview. Thomas is involved with all the Epstein stuff too, and his family's involved with the FBI. They're part of the people that messed with Isaac and killed him and are covering it up, and I'm not able to even hashtag or tag Isaac anymore because my videos and my account will fucking get deleted. It's happened over and over again. So I can only speak about really Kurt Cobain.
It's Rolling Stone where he said he was happier than he'd ever been.
Is this your idea? I'll find it.
When you hear Courtney spinning this whole elaborate timeline about how he tried to commit suicide before, and he was talking about the suicide to everybody he knew, that just seems to be fiction.
Rather chillingly, Love says that 3 of Cobain's uncles had also committed suicide. She calls it the Cobain curse.
As far as the suicide history in the Cobain family, Leland Cobain's father, he was a Montesano police officer.
Let me skip past this part. One second.
Cameron gave me back no parole, but he said, I would destroy this if I were you. It's not going to do you any good.
Why would somebody tell you to get rid of that?
Because it wasn't really nice. They talked about getting a divorce.
While I was in Seattle with Dylan when we were driving around, I mentioned to him that Courtney said that Kurt only stays in the best hotels, and he was almost incredulous. I mean, he practically laughed, and he said, that's ridiculous. He hates fancy hotels. He stays in really cheap places.
This is them building more false fake narrative about why Tom threw down on the 7th. Really, that he was just staging the crime scene in the greenhouse and probably the house, cleaning it up more. And that's why there's the joke of, I've never seen the house this clean before in the beginning of this movie from Dylan. That's another inside joke on us. Thank you, Paul.
Mostly along the Aurora Strip.
All right, have you seen him or not? Okay, come on. I'm gonna call Courtney and check in.
What is that?
Know what's going on.
Dylan told me that when they did stay at those motels, they usually stayed for 2 or 3 weeks, basically living off of Coca-Cola and potato chips and doing their heroin. Courtney always wanted to go through Dylan.
She wanted to talk to Dylan on the phone and have Dylan give me the instructions.
Courtney's had some trouble. She's in the hospital and she got arrested. Well, she said the rest was all a big mistake and she's fine. She wants us to go back to the house and look for the shotgun again. She thinks it might be in the hidden compartment of the bedroom closet.
Hidden compartment. She hadn't mentioned that to us before, but she said that's where Kurt keeps the shotgun. So if it's there, that's where it's going to be.
So this is all bullshit by them. They know the shotgun is already placed on Kurt's chest. He's already been shot. He was shot at on Sunday, April 3rd, 1994. And now here's some more bullshit. This is Courtney's letter, and they're going to play it off as Callie's. And Callie is going to write a fake note sample for Tom Grant. And that's going to be in notebook number 1 or notebook number 2. And it's part of the cover-up. To cover up that Courtney and Tom were there staging this crime scene more on Thursday, April 7th. The others that staged it before that were like Mark and Dylan and Callie, possibly. They weren't there on the night of the murder. They were there on Thursday, April 7th, 1994, all together. And they're covering for themselves all in this film.
Remember this from last night? No.
The note that was apparently written by Callie didn't make sense. Kurt.
You know it wasn't apparently written by Callie. Sorry about that.
I can't believe you managed to be in this house without me noticing. You're a fucking asshole for not calling Courtney and at least...
And it sucks that people watching this film are thinking they're getting closer to justice for Kurt when they're being fooled. Even Kurt Cobain would be pissed off about this film.
letting her know
No wonder his friends are pissed off about it.
that you're okay. She's in a lot of pain, Kurt. And this morning she had another accident, and now she's in the hospital again. We looked in that little hidden compartment. There was no shotgun there. She's your wife. She loves you, and you have a child together. Get it together to at least help.
And it wasn't there, of course, because it was on Kurt Cobain's chest in the greenhouse on Thursday, April 7th, when you were there this night, talking about this night that you were there. Fuck, man. Just because it was so long ago doesn't mean we can't see what happened.
Or you're okay, or she is going to die. It's not fair, man. Do something now.
No, the shotgun was already on Kurt Cobain's chest. He was killed Sunday, April 3rd. They knew that Kurt's body was in the greenhouse. Tom did not miss the greenhouse. They knew the shotgun was on Kurt's chest at this point. This is from Courtney doing the stage and the setting up and everything. And she wants to make it look like they really couldn't find Kurt. But Callie didn't write the letters. Courtney just had the idea of doing this. But this is Tom covering for Courtney.
Later, when I talked to Rosemary Carroll about it and I told her I was suspicious of it, she jumped in right away, and she knows Callie real well too. When I picked up that note and read it, it sounded phony to me.
Did it sound terribly
It
phony?
sounded like a setup letter.
Absolutely. I agree.
When I first found the letter, I had no doubt that Callie had written it, but it still looked strange to me. You know, the letter just didn't make sense. It looked...
Right, well, it was not written by, it wasn't a sincere letter.
Right, yeah, it sounded like
I thought Kelly wrote it because he knew that Kurt was dead.
Again, wasn't Callie, but see here Rosemary's seriousness in this. And then over time, she starts to get suspicious of Tom, and she stops talking to him, cuts off communication with him completely. Even Tom makes a point out of that. Well, she did that because she started to be suspicious of this Tom Grant guy. Courtney uses private investigators to do her dirty work, just like Hank Harrison said. Retired ones. It's like with retired private investigators or whatever, There's always that egotistical prick that wants to over insert power, and you can always like do something corrupt with them.
Dylan and I headed out to the town of Carnation, just outside of Seattle. Kurt and Courtney owned 2 cabins there, and we were curious to see if there had been any evidence of Kurt being there. We got about halfway there when we stopped to get gas, and Dylan made another phone call.
I wonder who he's going to call. Is it Courtney Love? Yeah.
I got a phone call from our electrician, Gary Smith, and he was doing some security lighting at a house of we just knew it was a rock star in Seattle. We weren't sure, didn't know who he was. I mean, he literally just kind of stumbled across it. He looked through a doorway, a glass door, a locked door, and he saw a body. And he said, I think he shot himself. I called a radio station and told him what happened.
So I answered the call, and there's a guy on the line, and he's going, I have got some incredible news here.
Anything? A friend of mine said he just heard they found a body at Kurt's house.
What?
Nirvana is dead.
More bullshit by Tom and Dylan and Courtney and Mark and Callie, possibly. Yeah, Callie in the background. More shady work right here. This is the insider knowledge that even Billy Corgan and Joe Rogan know about when they were talking about this film.
An electrician discovered Cobain's body in the singer's Lake Washington home this morning. The electrician tells Como News that emergency crews told him that the dead man...
By the way, I always wanted to reveal like celebrity inside stuff that's evil if I knew about it, and if I knew they knew about it, and now I do know that, and I'm fucking glad.
When I heard that the body was found in a room that was called the greenhouse, I turned to Dylan and I said, "What's the greenhouse?" And he said, "It's a dirty little room above the garage. They stored lumber or something in there, and it sounded to me like this was just some kind of broom closet or something." So do you think he intentionally did not tell you to check up?
And that's why people say bullshit when you say that. And that's why these A-lister celebrities know you're full of bullshit when you say that. Because they're on the inside of this. You're part of the freaking cover-up. There's no way Tom Grant missed the greenhouse and Courtney Love now that we know she was there with Dylan, thanks to Dylan and Maureen Herman. There's no way he missed both of those things.
Well, again, you know, I hope the listeners bear in mind we're having to skip over an awful lot of stuff.
He glanced down on the floor. Saw something that looked like a mannequin. I can see blood in his ear, long hair. Immediately got...
I don't think she set him up to walk into it. I think he knew since April 3rd. Unless they told Tom to stay away from the greenhouse while Courtney was in there, and he wants to lie and say she wasn't there. While he was taking photos of everyone inside the house, like Bonnie and Joe and Jessica. Possibly not Jessica that day. But Bonnie and Jennifer and Joe and Callie. That's why they left in the car right then that day on Thursday, April 7th. I guarantee you he didn't miss all that.
A little shaken.
The French doors were locked. I was...
Let me do this.
First in and right away could see that it was a fatality.
shotgun lay in his lap, a significant pool of blood by his head. There was nothing we could do for him, so we didn't touch the body. We'll check for mail or something with a name on it. The officer said, hey.
Just a second. I got a copyright warning. Can you guys are still here though, so